Welcome, my name is Tisha with Sew Creative Lounge, and today's video is about sewing machine needles. Yes, sewing machine needles. They are meant to be disposed of once you finish using them. So this is all about those sewing machine needles, which can be very overwhelming for a beginner. So in this segment, we're going to talk about all the different needles, all the specialty needles, sizing of needles, and how to dispose and store your needles. All right, so let's get started. All right, so as you can see here, I have a display of needles, specialized needles, some storage containers for your needles, and how to dispose of your needles. So let's first talk about the needles. And so this first row of needles, as you can see here, are universal needles, and I love these. One thing about Smiths, you can buy them in multi-packs, as you can see here. So how do you know what's a multi-pack? Depending on the size. So I can look right here at the bottom. It says 10, 12, 12, 14. And so those are the size when we refer to needles. And 10 is being for very lightweight fabric, something that's as soft as chiffons or rayons or lightweight satins. And so a size 12 is great for, again, anything that's a light cotton, lightweight fabric, and those are pretty much your low-end average size. Most sewers sew at a 14, and usually when you purchase a new sewing machine, they'll give you a size 14. And so 14 is like a universal in between a slight medium weight fabric, which is where most cottons are going to be. So this is pretty nice. And so this is, again, I prefer Smiths because they just last longer and made really, really well. So that's a nice little pack there. And as you can see, you can get them in larger packs here, very large numbers. And here's another one that I like, and these are the Chrome Professional grade, and they are amazing. Again, they're universal, so you can use them on pretty much anything, but they just tend to last a lot longer. So I really do like those. Now let's talk about some of your specialized needles, okay? And so my specialized needles are these right here, my second row. And so as you can see, this one is a top stitch needle. And this is great for stitches that you know you're going to be going through multiple layers of fabric. And if you notice, the size is a size 16, and it's a bigger hole, meaning it's going to go through those layers of fabric much more smoothly. So this is a top stitch needle, and it's meant, your stitches are meant to be seen. All right, so we have another one here, and this is a stretch needle. And again, there's a difference between woven fabrics and knit fabrics. When it comes to knit fabrics, anything that stretches, you want a stretch needle. Sometimes they'll say knit needle, but it's all the same. So knit or stretch is great. And if you notice, this is a size 11. And again, that's a lightweight cotton. And so if you find that you are sewing with something that's very light, this is great for that. Now, if you're sewing with a heavier knit, you may need to go up in size, probably a size 14 in a knit. So it just depends on the weight of your knit. And so that's all about knits. And then we have a leather needle. So yes, we have needles just for leather. And so on them, they will say leather. And I recommend this for anything that is that's related to leather, and that means even your suedes, your vinyl fabric. Use a leather needle. They're great for that. And again, if you notice, this is in a large size, which is a size 16. That's because of the thickness of the fabric. You need a very strong needle for that. So that's my leather needle, and as you can see here, I have a twin needle. So yes, you may have received a small twin needle, and they do come in different sizes and everything. And a lot of times this kind of freaks people out, but don't freak out. Again, this is a great way to top stitch. Remember this needle over here, where it's just one needle for top stitching? Well, this needle will do the same job with 2 rows of stitches. And you see this all the time. You see this in your jeans. You see this in your stretch knit athletic wear a lot. You'll find this on your typical London folk coats and things of that nature. And so this is a twin needle that has 2 holes, and you actually will insert it from the top of the shank of the needle. So that's a whole nother video in itself on how to use those. But these are great. So that's another specialized needle. Now, how do you store these needles once you start using them, especially if you're jumping from anything from leather, and then you're later on in the day you're going to a knit, and then somehow in the evening you're working on a dress. And so you're jumping from needles to needles depending on your projects. And so what I recommend is having a great place to store your needles. Now, I have some little tools and techniques that I use personally. So if you find that you like magnetized cases, you go that route. And you can actually mark in here once you open it. If you wanted to take a sharp and just say size 11 needles, you could do that, and you'll have a case for each of your different sizes of needles or specialty needles, which I think is pretty cool. The other thing is a tomato. And so a tomato, I like to just divide up my needles. And as you can see, there is a size 16 area here. So if I had 16 needles, and if I had a size 14, here's my 14 needle here. And if I had twin needles, I can put twin needles here because I have a TW. And I even have an embroidery machine, so E4 embroidery machine. So a great tomato is to divide it up, okay? And another good way of, last but not least, another way of disposing of your needles. Make sure you're disposing of them correctly. Put them in something, wrap them in a paper towel, a piece of scrap fabric, anything, but do not just dump these in your trash can, okay? So make sure you dispose of them correctly. All right, with all that being said, these are all your sewing machine needles and all of the different sizes and different types of needles. So thank you for tuning in and learning about all the different sewing machine needles. We learned about the sizes, we learned about different brands, we learned also about the different specialized needles and how to dispose of needles. So I hope you learned a lot, and we'll see you in our next video.